So since 2019, wages are up about 50%, but housing is up 40%, groceries are up 30%, childcare is up 40%, and healthcare is up 30%.
Yeah.
So all of that, and auto insurance is up 50%. So between all of that, obviously people have less money, less expendable money to spend on necessities.
And people feel it, like
Mm-hmm.
they're treading water,
Yeah.
right? Like I mean, you know, just basic things, right? And when people start to cut things out, like, you know, where they're actually looking at what they're spending and they're saying, you know, okay, I'm not going to go to the movie, or I'm going to cut out some of my subscriptions, or maybe I can reduce my gym membership, you know, or whatever, and just go for hikes, or like that's happening right now. People are pulling back.
Well, and the problem is a lot of this stuff is things that you can't get around spending money on, right? Like you have to have a place to stay, you have to buy groceries, if you have children and you work, you need childcare. So all of these things are really coming down to the inflation is not on stuff that is expendable, it's on stuff that it's people's basic needs. And people that were living paycheck to paycheck before aren't making it and they're struggling, and we're seeing that in like the car repo numbers. We're seeing that at now starting in foreclosures, but also people that had a little padding, your average middle class person is now more paycheck to paycheck, and that is a very scary place to be for the economy and for just your average person.
Right. I think it's interesting. You know, Trump has been blaming the past administration for all this, and by the way, it just all runs together for me. But you know, he's over a year now, so at some point, almost right. So he's gonna run out of runway here. But I think right now this year there's more. It seems like there's more people that are actually starting to make critical decisions on downgrading where they're living, or certainly the defaults are up, credit card defaults are up, auto foreclosures are up, and we're starting to see it start to tick up on the single family housing now. Now, not huge numbers, but regardless, the things feel different, and I do think it's because of the cash problem. If you take a look at savings rates, they're way down, right? In fact, they were way up, obviously, after the stimmy checks. And by the way, you can check this out on Fred at the Federal Reserve of St. Louis, and it'll show you. It'll just show you. Just type in, what are the personal savings rates, and you'll see how bad it is right now. And I think that's it. I think people ran out of a cushion. The other thing is, there's a lot of interesting jobs, call it side hustles, that aren't necessarily side hustles anymore. Like Uber is another one. Let's talk about Uber. And now they've got Waymo. I know that's just in Phoenix, but that's coming, guys. Right?
Waymo, for those that don't know, are the self-driving Ubers.
Self-driving cars. They're everywhere. They're actually going on the freeways this month, and they've been testing around Phoenix. They're everywhere, and I've talked to plenty of Uber folks around that, but they're going to start getting into food delivery and obviously people delivery, and there's all these things. That's just one thing, and I just think that the other thing is I'm talking to people around AI, like I'm talking to folks like attorneys, for example, and I had a couple of attorneys said there's really very little need for paralegals. Like paralegals are a bit on the chopping block right now because of ChatGPT and some of the things that they can do. So these little things are creeping in now, and I don't think that people have the cash and that second, third, fourth potential revenue stream like we should have. I don't think they have it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think a lot of people are, the job market is getting softer, and it's getting harder for people to find work. And, it's interesting because consumer spending is still up, right? So you have to look at, because we do have this K-shaped economy, and we look at the K-shaped economy, but boomers have more money now than any other generation that has retired, right? Like they have multiple houses.
Let's explain what K-shaped means, right?
Okay.
Because K-shape means that there's a sector of the economy that's going like this, and there's a sector of economy that's going like that, like a K. I think that's important to understand.
And those that have, so a lot of your boomers are on the higher end of that. So they're fine. They have their pensions, some of them, you have your social security, you have maybe rental property, you did really well in the stock market. So they're accounting for a lot of this consumer spending. And you know, that is going to keep going in that regard because they have the money, this generation. But then you have, your Gen Zers, your millennials, and they're kind of on the bottom end of that, depending a lot on, when they bought their house is a big one. But even the people that bought their house early, you're still dealing with increased grocery prices, job losses, wage stagnation, all of that. So you can have consumer spending and still have a big problem in the economy. And I think that is where that consumer spending is coming from.
Yeah, to me, it boils down to whether if you have the money to invest and you're in some kind of hard asset or even the stock market for that matter, you feel like you're at least moving, right?
Mhm.
And if you're not, if you're just paying your car payment, you're just paying your rent, and you're just paying your food, and you're stressing out because maybe you're not working as much, or maybe you are. Either way, there's stress, and I think those are the folks, and that's a big number of people.
Well, and that's why Mom Donnie won in New York, right? Because he's offering, I mean, he's proposing free daycare and free busing and all these free things that people need help with.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now Kathy Hochul, the governor, is coming out and saying we can't fund anything he promised, so we can't do it. But I do think that there's sentiment there that
Well, you got to understand
people
why he
need
won.
help.
The issue is, why did he win?
Right.
And that's actually the biggest issue. And the reason is because of this affordability issue.
Yeah.
People are feeling squeezed. They're not happy. They're pissed. I also think the pandemic made a lot of people pretty soft.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just went home and and some of them don't ever want to go back to the office. They just always want to work remote, and some of them are vagabonds, with little side hustles and stuff, doing things. And so there's a lot of people that kind of unplugged. The participation rate in the workforce is way down too.
It is. And I think that, Gen Z is in for a little bit of a wake up call now that, the job market's tightening, because before they could be extremely picky on the hours they wanted to work and if they wanted to work remote and what they wanted to do.